name is Fadwa AlBawardi. I'm from Saudi Arabia. I'm very glad to have you all here today in the workshop. I hope you'll enjoy it. Just to give you a little bit of introduction about myself, I'm from Generation X. I graduated from Computer Science, Boston University Department in the year 2003. And I have more than 21 years of working experience in IT and strategic planning. In Saudi Arabia, right now, there is huge investment in IT, as everyone knows, in digital transformation, in AI. And I have been privileged in the year 2008 to be part of a team who have worked in the very first business intelligence solution in Saudi Arabia, where we created the first automated balance scorecard, and that was an amazing experience. And then after a few years, we had the pandemic, we had COVID, and then we needed AI in order to help us to predict the percentage of COVID patients infected in the future based on location, based on demographies, and so on. And again, I was privileged to be part of a team in a national project in Saudi Arabia that worked in that particular objective. We managed to find the percentage of bed occupancies in all ICUs, in all Saudi Arabian hospitals through AI algorithms. And during all those experiences, I have learned a lot. I have learned a lot about data. I have learned a lot about AI. I have learned a lot about the challenges that we face as IT developers, as IT people that are really involved with data strategies and AI. So I tried in this workshop to summarize some of the lessons that I have learned during my experience, and also because I'm very much involved in research, SDGs, I also very much focus on the challenges, the ethical challenges of AI when it comes to SDGs. So today's workshop is about navigating the ethical and technical challenges of AI in regards to four particular challenges: data privacy, bias, harm, and accuracy. Of course, as you all know, we have more than 15 well-known challenges of AI. However, today we'll be only focusing on four of them. First, the introduction will be just 10 minutes. We'll be discussing briefly about AI ethics and the challenges, and short briefing on European Union AI Act and UNESCO efforts regarding AI ethics. And then we will move on in the workshop with the SDG 4. We will be talking about quality education for about 20 minutes, and then the decent work and economic growth for another 20 minutes. And then SDG 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure for another 20 minutes. And then sustainable cities and communities for about 20 minutes for SDG 11. So when we talk about AI ethics, if we would like to summarize it in one sentence, what is AI ethics? AI ethics simply is the guiding principles that ensure that we develop and use AI in a responsible and trusted manner. This is very important, okay? In order for us to understand more about the challenges, as you can see, we have four blocks. We have two dimensions: fairness, safety, and trust. As you can see, privacy and bias, they are very much influenced by fairness. And also privacy and security, they are very much influenced by safety and trust. We have to really understand these blocks, and we have to really ask ourselves several questions. First, are we protecting our own data privacy? Are we protecting the confidentiality of our information? Also, do we have data strategies in place before we can even think about AI strategies? It's very important that we implement data strategies that ensure that we have data governance, data management, data security, and all these policies related to data. We need to have it intact and in place before we can even think about AI. Also, we need to ask ourselves, are the algorithms that we are using, are they biased? Are we inputting the correct data? Are we inputting fair data that can actually influence the output in an unbiased manner? And also, we need to think about the safety of the systems. Right now, especially in smart cities, smart homes, we are having a lot of robots right now in our homes. Are these safe for the elderly? Are these safe for young children? We have to even think about industrial factories. Are the robots that we are using, are they safe to the workers, and so on? And also, we need to think very much about the data quality, because the data quality, it affects the algorithms. How can we make decisions? How can we depend on AI to have decision-making process, efficient one, if we don't have the proper data quality? It can really screw up the data. I'm sure you've all heard about the term called data poisoning. Data poisoning is when we have an AI algorithm that works fine. However, due to some maybe hacking attempts or unintentional attempts, data is being poisoned with wrong entries, which can actually mess up the whole process of the prediction. As you all know, we have in the predictive analysis and strategic measures, we have the analyzing of huge amount of data as part of AI. We are feeding the algorithms with huge data, and also we are predicting. We are now living in the fourth industrial revolution. The fourth industrial revolution, actually, AI is doing the prediction. However, we have another layer that is above the prediction, which is the judgment. Right now, in this era, AI can only do the prediction part. However, humans still are the ones who do the judgment. They judge if the prediction is correct or not. Hopefully, this is what a lot of AI scientists hope for in the fifth industrial revolution. When we reach there, AI will be able to judge its own prediction, whether it's right or wrong. I'm not sure if we are going to reach that in the coming few years. However, I would consider this as a major achievement and breakthrough in technology if AI is able to judge its own prediction. Now we will talk about short briefing on the European Union AI Act. It's a legislative proposal announced in April 2021 that aims to regulate the development and use of AI technology in the EU. The act, of course, it categorizes AI systems into 4 tiers based on their level of risk, with certain high-level AI systems subject to strict regulation and oversight. Of course, it's very, very important to have a balance between restrictions and innovation. EU is doing its very best to make sure that technological companies, they don't find any, let's say, nothing will hinder their own innovation when it comes to AI due to these regulations. These regulations, they need to make sure that we have safety, we have transparency, we have data security and everything in place. However, innovation is another major factor that this act needs to consider. Also, the Act outlines requirements for transparency, data privacy, accuracy, and accountability for the use of AI systems. It's very important for companies that develop AI and use algorithms to be held responsible if something goes wrong. Especially now, as you know, with the deep fake, with all the issues that we have in the internet, it's very important for companies to be held responsible for their tools and programs. Also, the Act sets up a board to oversee the compliance with these regulations and promote trust and confidence in AI systems among the businesses and innovation. What about the UN, UNESCO? What about the efforts with AI? UNESCO has also been actively working to address ethical challenges related to AI, such as bias, privacy concerns, and transparency through various initiatives and campaigns. In 2019, UNESCO adopted the recommendation on the ethics of AI, which provides a set of principles and guidelines for ethical development, emphasizing the importance, of course, of human rights, transparency, accountability, and diversity. There has been a lot of workshops, conferences, like the one that we are in today. There have been a lot of workshops, training programs for awareness and to build the capacity and bring everyone together on the same table. Also, UNESCO is leading efforts to develop and implement frameworks for AI governance that promote a culture of ethical standards in digital age. I'm not sure who was here day before yesterday, but there was an AI governance day. It was amazing. Everybody was speaking about how all countries are sharing and participating with their experience in that day, including developing countries. So that was really great efforts by the UN. Now let's talk about the SDGs. First, quality education. How does AI ethics is crucial in ensuring quality education? I would say that the weaknesses that we have with AI in quality education, they have to do with bias and inaccuracy. So when we talk about one real example of how AI ethics is crucial in ensuring quality education for all, we need to make sure that we have algorithms that will analyze vast student data and make predictions about their performance, about their behavior, interventions. However, if these algorithms, if these interventions, they are not developed and implemented ethically, they will definitely have some kind of discrimination. Okay, we'll use the other one. Okay. So there will be some kind of discrimination. For example, if we have certain students from a certain country or certain race, if the algorithm is being fed that these group of students who have performed poorly before, if we continue to feed the algorithm that this race is going to continue also poorly or have a lower percentage of success, we may influence the AI algorithm in a very unethical way. This is just an example. Yesterday, I attended an amazing workshop. It was talking about education and how students in rural areas are very much affected by technology and the lack of technology. We were brainstorming about how AI can help students in rural areas, and we were thinking about how about we have some tools, AI tools, that can actually predict the number of dropouts of these students in those rural areas, because usually these children, they leave their schools, they leave their education and go to help their parents. They do some labor work. So we were thinking about why don't we have some tools that can actually predict the percentage of dropouts and can actually use AI for good and to make sure that this percentage will go down, and we can actually have some personalized training and personalized education to these students, and maybe some psychological help also to these students to understand why they are dropping out. What do they need? Is it finance? Is it psychological rebellion? So this kind of AI tools, this is how we can really help humanity. And at the same time, these algorithms, they need to be very much unbiased. They need to, I'm not going to say forget the history of students. However, it needs to keep account of future potential for these students. Another idea we were discussing yesterday about careers. Like a lot of students right now, they get confused with the huge number of areas and specialties. What do I want to do when I graduate? I want to go to medicine. I want to go to engineering. I'm confused. I don't know. There are many choices. There are many options. Why don't we use AI tools for good in order to help students, especially the ones at young age who are still in secondary school or college? They need to know what would be best for them. So AI tools can actually be good for humanity. If we can have a tool that can personalize the skills and the talents of each student and suggest the paths for them, this is much better than years and years after work. Those people will not really find themselves in what they have chosen, and then it will be too late to regret their choices. There are many, many things that can be done when we talk about quality education. Of course, AI technologies play a significant role in improving access to education. Everybody now has got access to education. It's very helpful in that area. As we mentioned, personalized learning is one of the major significant tools and areas that AI can help. Also, access to resources. Now, people can get all the information they want from their own homes. They don't need to even go to libraries anymore. And they can do even their research. They can, through chat GPTs and other tools, they can actually ask any question they want and they can get results and answers instantly. Also, the automation of administration, not only students, of course, teachers, they can always use AI to help them with some routine work, like, for example, streamlining tasks or grading assignments and so on. So it can save a lot of time. And of course, it needs to be supervised by humans. So now what we are going to do, we are going to have all of you maybe divide yourself up into groups. For 10 minutes, we need these groups to brainstorm and think about one challenge in education in SDG 4 and let us know how you think you can overcome this challenge. So after 10 minutes, we will need to have one speaker from every group to let us know what you think is the major challenge related to AI ethics and how you can overcome it. So maybe we can have maybe 4 or 5 groups. You can just discuss with the people next to you. Can we kindly have that? And then at the end, every representative will come to the board and they will just explain their idea. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes to brainstorm, and then around 11, we will reconvene. Thank you.
I don't know. We can make a.
Just gather on this flip chart. This might be a little bit
Any
more.
larger than like 4 to 6 to run people's names. Cecilia. Yeah. Earlier. 3 to AI. Education is online. I'm Asma. I am an ex-tech worker with my job at Amazon. Actually not bring anything on AI in the corporate world. Oh,
Cyber ambassador for the Netherlands. What I'm here for is spoken for AI, which is the first cybersecurity company. Yeah, cyber attacks, fixes and after the fact. So there's an AI able to predict you're going to be attacked by with accuracy.
But it was never to follow on after that one. Yeah.
I'm only advising them. I wish I invented it. These people.
Looking really streamline AI and background investigations.
Wow, what a diversity. Yeah, group. So none of it is actually named. Yeah, so that's gonna be the beauty of it. Our person is get access to that. And if the person privacy,
So
how shall the AI really
Nothing cycle. It's just a 4-hour drive away.
The military is the behavioral side of the guidance. Not to get the anything and when I was attending school, that was for this behavior.
Like the two main issues.
Not that because anymore.
Yeah, the inaccurate. Inaccurate. Yeah.
Standing, listening or not.
Why is it be so many three and minorities?
Yes, you need to know better than that.
The idea is to come up with this kind of the right.
OEMs.
Yeah, and how AI can address that.
Yeah.
We can tackle the other one. Yeah, see what we see of knowledge.
I think we shall.
Shun away from.
So if the students penalize the students because
Otherwise,
There will be too many. This single person who will know
same course, so I don't know any of the documents.
I feel bad.
Yeah, on my back to you.
There's a big drama there that's having.
No.
maybe working in groups will reduce the intrusion into private data. It's a group of 10 and you running the study on them, and instead of teaching, you have a data about this group.
Discourage you from.
Large module through an direction.
Yeah. I completely agree because the AI kind of forces you on that pathway.
Give some drawings, upstairs, I visit a store with a tool for emotional recognition. And between the emotion we have curiosity.
Oh, yeah.
Between, with this and
Actually, in general.
here, and that was first person, so we say, oh, today they will engage people curious of what you were saying. This would be a honest rating, no?
But that's
There's no need. There's no need.
Yeah, it could be the time because it would be outside.
Yeah, the thing is that the interesting part of learning is that it's not going, the
Yeah,
data
but
is
it's
not
all
going anywhere. They're just staying in the local. So I don't know, if you're running a school, you will have this information.
So you will have.
This day, on this lesson, there was 30 kids. 15 was really curious, 10 was sleepy, and 5 were joking or laughing.
Ideally.
So this is all you will have. That's useful.
Way to do emphasis.
That's the topic, but
Oh, well, solving the world.
No. Yeah.
Two more minutes. Thank you.
And then for the solution, and this is like
Yeah.
like the architectural
Yeah,
solution.
yeah.
But let's just decide
More
one
to,
problem.
and yeah, and it's,
You know, like children.
yeah, in education.
We haven't identified. Yes, make my way
Yeah,
stand up, do my exams, and it's my plan B.
Trying to raise
Media.
Can't write standardized
That just.
schooling. Every country has maybe different approaches to schooling. In the US, they're much more clothing, interactive, things like that. Europeans, it's a lot more. You've got to learn. Maybe if you do it through AI, that's our big challenge would be that.
When you turn over that paper, of course,
And aim to be
students will
unbiased,
their way
more
and
generalized, and that doesn't.
have some prompts as shortcuts to turn over their work. Yeah, that's it. Not nothing new, but I think, of course, the ethical consideration, that's much.
That's a lot of.
There's, data guidelines for how to properly cite just like as to preserve the outcome of stuff students. And I think the universities to have some sort of clear guidelines on, of course, we should use AI, of course, for
Yeah,
further our education.
I think that's what some.
Just the schools have the responsibility. How students can use it for their advantage rather than stifling innovation. So learning.
They have to adapt.
Yeah, and that's. Yes, exactly, and I remember after university, we had,
Anyway,
when we were allowed to use anything we wanted, we even allowed to open notes. I called my mom.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, my teacher is
Students.
It's
Maybe this is
a
the
way
word I'm
to
gonna have solution at the end of the day, like.
access to information.
Means slash AI, where the teacher.
Deliver or customize your thought. Exactly. How to open
The limitation of
his mind.
And it's where.
Different, so this is what.
Image
we
or.
did now, the operating quantity of information. Because right now, we have access
But
the quantity of.
The process behind.
The process behind. The way that you apply to a live situation. So.
Teaches how to. Input, sorry, the analytics in my work every AI. Previously, we don't use the group targets every year. Using all those different targets.
If we do it that way, we're just relying on the skill of individual teachers rather than.
You always say that.
For AI existing, right?
Just whatever they
Yeah,
say.
now I'm not. I'm a primary school level, but yes, I connect with university, or the all sorts of
Suggestions, not.
just to.
Yes.
Or
That's my question, is it legal or not? Again, if some people are allowed and some are not, they'd be like an.
They have the high school exams.
Solution to.
well, you are very young. At my time, I have to go to libraries.
I remember that. We're looking it up and see a little percentage of potential leaders.
We have to stop the discussions now, sadly.
I remember.
Obviously, me too. I mean, I
I think I
remember
might cry.
a war without a Okay,
So, and then they said, that's unfair, that's unfair. Because, and then you had program of that calculator.
yes. Kindly, everyone, please. I know there is a lot to discuss. However, due to time, unfortunately, we have to end the brainstorming now, and let's hear from you. So we are going to start group by group. How about we start from the very back? Um, who would be the representative from your group?
Your choice.
So the exercise again, it was to think about what is the biggest challenge when it comes to SDG 4 when we talk about AI ethics and how you recommend to fix this challenge. So please.
Great. So our team, we didn't make a team name or anything like that, but I'll be very brief. So the key words, and as we did a circle around of insights that were triggered by your question, was around bias or bias by proxy. So we went into that. We looked at excluding some groups of students, so the risks around that. Do you want to take a couple more?
Sure. Then we also looked into the risk of how we actually define success and whether we have just one mindset on to define it, and hence the indicators and metrics. We also looked into risk related to a system that's based on still gender, nationality, and other data that the system will use. Maybe in some regard that may be disadvantages for some groups of people. And that when you develop, we had the benefit of a software developer with us who said that indeed what you put into the system will be generalized and used in that regard. So that's an additional risk.
Yeah, and then we're looking at all this has changed. I remember being when this conference was at the basement of the ITU 5 years ago. It's look at the growth now, and so we're on a wave. And there's early adopters, there's those that have moved from being aware of these to having a real desire to do something about it, having the knowledge to actually do something about it meaningful, and then taking action and so forth. And so we're on that curve, and there's a lot to learn. So in that knowledge space, this is the thing about the gap. So is there enough knowledge with our colleagues in the education zone and the related stakeholders to be responsible in this space?
And so we also further discussed that we basically build systems that are based on past knowledge, which may sound positive, but it may also present some risk because we assume the past is the truth and inform the future in that regard. So there can be an additional risk if we base our predictions only on the past. There's a risk of misinformation that is put into the system and that will be taken for granted. There's also the risk that we actually in education, we expect standard responses and one truth, and we have less space for thinking out of the box and creativity that AI may typically not bring and that the humans may bring. And hence, the main risk is to further leave behind those groups that are already left behind. Because you earlier mentioned that indeed it can increase access. It can, but it can also do the opposite, and I think further increase the gap between groups who may not have the access to technology, to internet, and so on and so on. And we thought about how to overcome this.
We did, but we didn't want to take up more oxygen in the room from the other group. So should we just leave that to rest there and give the balance back?
Great insights. Thank you so much. Thank you for the effort in brainstorming and letting us know about your conclusions. Thank you. So we'll move to the next group. I don't want to miss anybody, so you're the next group, right? Is there anyone from the back row? No, right? Okay. Please.
Hello, hi. I'm Aro Robson, and we ladies. So we had three risks. Two of them are existing human risks that we think AI could help with, and one is an AI risk that we think we need to adapt AI to make sure it doesn't materialize. So our first real risk is a human risk, which is errors in correcting marking, where human beings are marking lots of exam scripts or tests. They may make errors when they're attributing marks to students. And so we thought we could use AI to double check, not necessarily to mark originally until AI gets a bit better, but to check what teachers marks have been attributed, and also to create better fairness in exam marking so that there's more of a standard rather than down to the individual professor. So a human risk and an AI solution. Our second one is an AI risk that we need to protect against. So we thought a loss of critical thinking skills in students, because with generative AI and LLMs, we're moving from tech that just gives us access to resources, but now synthesizes it into an answer or a response. And there's a concern that that means students might lose the ability to do that synthesis and critical thinking, particularly if that output is itself not accurate or is biased. So we had 3 solutions to this one. We were really going for it. So one, have Gen AI or an LLM present opposing views. So if you ask it a question, how did the Roman Empire fall? You might get 3 different answers depending on the sources that it's used, so students can then evaluate the output. We had training students to understand the shortcomings and the processes of LLMs, especially things like ChatGPT or generative AI, by asking them to produce an answer and comparing it so that they understand how Gen AI is producing things and what the differences are. And then 3, we thought LLM outputs in particular could integrate the sources more clearly in their responses, and possibly RAG technology, results augmented generation, where you can see where it's pulling its data from, might be a useful way so that students can have the transparency of where this response has come from. And our third one is again a human problem with, we think, an AI solution. So a lack of socioeconomic but also ethnic gender diversity in schools due to both geographical catchment areas but also selection. Where you have grammar schools or paid schools, you can have a lack of diversity in education and also perhaps opportunity. So we thought you could use AI to build a more sophisticated model to allocate children to schools. Obviously, if you've got a rural population with very, very geographically dispersed schools, this may be less of a solution. But when you have several schools in one area, we thought an AI model that could ensure diversity in schools would be a way to make sure you have a diverse group of students that are brought together to learn. And then 2, we thought connecting different schools and students through ICT, but also perhaps using AI to help them collaborate or work more closely together, pooling the results of their studies to share it and to produce more standardized education materials could overcome some of those diversity issues. So 2 human problems, 1 AI problem, all of them with AI solutions, we hope.
That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Now we will move to the next group.
Hello, we didn't put anything on the board. We were just here. We had a wide-ranging discussion, which touched on some of the things that have already been discussed. And so I'll just talk about one of the things that hasn't been mentioned yet, which is, of course, the overuse of digital technologies of young people happening currently now. So this is not, of course, something that's in the future. It's not sci-fi. That there is a real danger of students using too much digital technology and an over-reliance on AI-generated, maybe adaptive models. While they could help certainly some students, it needs to that use needs to be guarded very carefully so that students do not overuse digital technologies.
Thank you very much for sharing. Now the next group.
Yeah, we started actually off with one of your examples with a school dropout. I think it's already 5 years ago, but there's a difference in if the output and the outcome is useful for the school dropouts. Since mostly the data you need to be better than the teacher is behavioral data. You need to know how students behave in the class. You need to know, like, if they're lacking attention, if they're interacting with, especially with other students, if they're maybe loners, etc. And the teacher can see that in an instant. AI can't, especially if you only have data limited for good reasons for privacy, especially with young children, to only grades, ranking, and it doesn't say that much. You don't know the home situation, etc. So we were like, how can we get more data since it's really, not privacy friendly to add more data, and it's really hard to safeguard all the items in the process. So we're like, is there a system you can, of course, now also scan the room for emotions? But that's also something that's prohibited in schools with the AI coming up. So we thought, like, is there an opportunity to maybe use that in a group level to let teachers learn from the outputs? Let's say if you have different classes and you can compare the classes and the teachers to see if everybody of a percentage of the group not paying attention, and to bring actually the teachers together to learn from each other how to grab attention and get the methods there that are working, but still it's a really invasive technology, so it's a really ethical decision whether it's good enough and not invasive too much to use it in practice. And of course, we have discussed ChatGPT as well, but I'll leave that to the next group.
I completely agree with you. Very insightful. Thank you. Is there any group in this row we haven't?
Hi. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Asma. I'm from Ethical AI Alliance .org nonprofit, just introducing myself. We were here in a very diverse team. None of us has ever worked in education. So we spent the 10 minutes actually just discussing issues, and we didn't really focus on one problem. But eventually, one topic came out, which was really critical thinking. And we were like, actually, does AI really foster or harm critical thinking in education in general? And so we started debating on that. And one of the solution we've sort of pictured is, what if, so we imagine the classroom, right? And we imagine the student using AI for summarizing papers, for for writing, and we thought, like, this is, we're not sure this could be stopped anyway. So we might as well accept it and build on that to see how we can help kids and students in general have critical thinking based on the fact that they will be using AI. And so we thought about this hybrid solution where the teacher or the will play a big role into monitoring and sort of helping create the environment for that AI to be used in a personal and ethical way, but also to challenge the responses and foster critical thinking. So this was actually pretty much what we were decided on. So thank you.
I totally agree with you. AI can help a lot with critical thinking, just like what Saad mentioned. Also, it's very, very important to educate students how to think, especially with generative AI, where you can get the solution and the answer just in an instant. Even coding now, machines do the coding for us. Maybe there will be no need for programmers in the future. So it's very important to really nurture the creativity and the critical thinking of young students, because the next generation will be at high risk. If they find everything ready for them through AI, I believe that will impact them negatively. So really, thank you for sharing. Okay.
You guys said most of what we were talking about, so I'll just quickly summarize. So we also agreed with the profiling of students, but we're also looking at how students interact with the different applications that they're giving, and if they would be profiled on how much time they spend on the applications that they are studying, if they are preparing or if they are more of a lazy student, and how that will impact the teacher's view on the student and how they interact with the student. So how AI will actually impact the human relationship there. Next, we were talking about also your example with helping students find a path. We were worried that this may be railroading them and just pointing them in one direction, whereas we think it should be inspiring students and showing them all the possibilities and pushing them to go outside their comfort zones. Lastly, all the information that AI is built on has to come from somewhere. We already have in academia a huge problem with access to resources. So open research has to be fundamental in the systems that we build. And lastly, addressing the NEET rate, also inspiring. So NEET is not an employment, educational training. And how do we then get these people to search for a vocation or training for the futures and inspire them? Thank you.
This was an informative summary. So thank you all. We will move now to the next topic. When we talk about SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, I believe this is one of the most important SDGs when we discuss AI ethics, simply because there is a connection between AI ethics and achieving decent work and economic growth. When we talk about unbiased, harm causing no harm, as well as privacy of data, I believe these are the weaknesses that are related to SDG 8 and AI ethics. For example, how can we reverse this and make use of AI in an ethical way without harming decent work and economic growth objectives as an SDG? I was thinking about, for example, recruitment. As you know, right now, AI-enabled recruitment tools are being used by some organizations and HR departments in order to select candidates, especially if we have a huge number of resumes. However, it's very important to make sure that the algorithms used are unbiased based on gender or based on nationality and so on, and that they are very transparent and they are giving equal opportunities to all applicants. This is very, very important. So you see how AI as a tool, it can be used in both ways, good or bad. It was really like I would say there's a very famous saying that resembles AI to a toolbox. It says AI is a toolbox, and inside it there are several tools. And these tools are the actual applications. So you can use these applications for the good or you can use it for the bad. I think it really applies to AI. Also, if we think about a manufacturing company, which is utilizing AI technology to automate certain processes, in its production process. This would lead to increased productivity. However, it may cause a risk of losing jobs to some of the workers. So I believe that AI can be used in order to oppose unemployment, in order to make sure that we have decent work and economic growth. We don't want to lose human skills. So what is important is to upscale these human skills. We need to upgrade them. We need to make them know how to use technology, how to use robots, how to do the maintenance in the factories and industries. So we can convert workers from doing just routine work into doing a more productive, we can say thinking jobs. I think that would be important. Also, when we talk about transportation companies, they are actually implementing AI in order to safely and efficiently manage their vehicles. So it's also important to handle these operations in a very smart way. I know that through AI and through all the sensors, if we look at the vehicle and all the components of vehicles, AI and robot vehicles and sensors, cameras, they can automatically detect defects in an instant. If we have 500 pieces that we are gathering in order to create a car, AI can easily detect if there are any problems, and human eye maybe cannot detect it that efficiently. So we can actually use AI very, very efficiently. However, I believe it's very important for humans to maintain and monitor both input and output, not simply depend on AI. So now for the next 10 minutes, we are going to also, through your groups, think about what is the biggest challenge for SDG 8 when it comes to AI ethics and how you recommend fixing them. So in 10 minutes, we'll hear from you. Thank you.
No, if you don't like. I know, so we go back to yes.
Economic problem.
Do the same.
Yes, it's my area of work actually. I think it's a bit. To get access to technology in Africa.
Absolutely.
And for the transportation. What we know now is that they are different oil. And with we working on things where would be it's a great thing actually it's more like 5 on an island. And because it's also different so no radio, no and for the electrical and the second was in I will allocate the places where they need to be on the morning. And the problem was
Yeah, we're not helping the festival. Yeah. I like the idea, like, we, yeah, focus on upskilling or, yeah, like, and how,
to this
how
one
can I?
at the detriment of the other ones because some places better than others. So they were really allocated
Different,
by
a lot of different jobs
should
that we
and should all make the same, almost the same amount. The idea is when the city grow to allow the business of each person to grow, but also allow new community without them losing shares of the market. So that was the biggest challenge. Yes, to recalibrate the amount of revenue because the AI will be the one that decides, okay, you work enough. This month, do you see what I mean? Work enough. I want.
Not everybody. But you might need two rather than. Yeah.
Not even about the how. It's just about the AI will so that okay, we have 100 and there's 1 million to make, not to make 10,000 like us. And I want more than 10,000 for some business. Yes, now the biggest thing because as an entrepreneur.
Oh, sorry. You have a problem? Do you want us?
The bad. Yes.
Everybody can make it to
Well, it will be perceived as a threat. Killed you. On the other hand, we don't really know how it changes. Something else. You they were new kind of jobs. There's so-called leaves so that's because people like with and every night, you know, stop watch, see how many
already structural.
The other thing,
Stuck in such.
what if nobody is okay to
Resistance.
Cities of like.
then you have to fit it, yes, to fit it up.
What it makes resumes, also actually find the candidate based on the information rather than based on what they've done.
Because of that,
rather
reading
than
the right
exactly
example,
wording.
using the right statements.
Lots of ways.
So you
In every sense.
algorithm that is exactly
Yes, the thing is that
Still stuck.
skill, really, not that I have. The algorithm is already creating out state, and then the question becomes like, how could AI work on questions?
why do you need the money will be very intrusive. This is my limit. My limit.
Okay.
Wow, but yes, it's interesting, the human factor, somehow give up on this for this month. Okay, I'm okay. I will be on vacation. I'm okay to but the other question, can somebody allocate it directly to someone else?
I can't verify it, but.
Or leave it to the AI to choose? Yes. Yes, the start of. No, we already have this, it's not working. Yeah.
3% of
I think the problem is that randomizing is not really working because the machine will learn that this guy is working very fast. So if there's an emergency, we will send the good guys doing it. But we don't know why the bad guys made it bad. So the client is a factor. So you cannot say where they're going. You see what I mean?
well, happy to. One of those who write down
The line, you want me.
I'm old.
Yes. We need to
You know.
adjust
Okay,
the so many things.
You're left behind. Yeah, you're left behind, and then you're forced to do it.
Ask people to save the maximum amount of money. But some people, yes, they don't want to work. Some people want to go on vacation.
Waving.
Other will have a very big family, so they want to stay at home.
Huge amount of danger. How innovation is perceived.
I vote for technology.
I think so. Yeah, that's
Gonna have to start now, so we would appreciate it to hear from you, please. We will start from you this time, okay?
Oh.
Yes. Can we start now? Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, I think exactly.
Proposal to the US.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Timo. I'm a consultant, work for different clients, but I'm here to represent a company called Before AI, which is one of the first companies producing predictive threat intel in the cybersecurity realm. So they can predict who you're going to be attacked by in the next couple of weeks. And it's actually very accurate. But that's not why I'm here. We talked a little bit about work and economic growth. We went a little bit off topic, but we talked about basically threats and opportunities. Obviously, new technology presents opportunities to communities and to countries, to economies that were maybe lagging behind and now are able to sometimes leapfrog over those economies, those communities who are stuck in legacy structures, in legacy technology. One clear example is China, which was a fairly backwards rural country some decades ago and is now, I think, way ahead of Europe and certainly way ahead of the United States. That's why they're being perceived as a threat by the United States. I heard a statistic the other day that and I'm not sure if it's correct, but in Europe, 7% of businesses use AI. In the United States, it's 50% businesses using AI. In China, it's 85%. So again, I can't verify the statistic, but it shows you what these kind of technologies do for your economy and for creating jobs. And of course, it's being perceived as a threat in some ways, that it will kill certain jobs. We think that it will also create a whole new category of jobs. And it will transform economies in a way that we don't fully have a grasp of at this very moment. But a last anecdote to talk about the perception of threat. When the automobile was invented more than 100 years ago, there was a rule, at least in my country, that every car needed to be preceded by a man with a red flag. It would warn everyone for the danger that was coming. And a car was mainly seen as a threat. Well, that has changed a little bit in the meantime, as you can imagine. Very superficial, but there you go.
Thank you. We enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Okay, so.
So first thing we talked about was the recruitment process. How will AI impact that? So first thing we were thinking, not necessarily the best hire on paper will be the most effective work fit. So we were thinking, how will AI actually be profiling us to see if we're a good fit for a company or for a position? Also talking about internal promotions, how much data will companies be harvesting on their employees to make that judgment. Next, we was talking about also the productivity aspect of AI and how much surveillance we want to go in. There's an example from a colleague of mine who's working in India. She was working with the Dalits, so the JAS system, and they're at the bottom there working in waste management, and were given AI watches to track their GPS location and how long they're actually working. The technology is not really effective if they're down the sewers and using GPS. So obviously we can see the issues there, and if they're being penalized on the technology actually failing them, is wrong. And lastly, we were talking about most people do want to work, and how can AI actually support that work and not interfere with the humans, so acting as support and not hindering them. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. My name is Saad. So I'm a founder of a company that helps SMEs in developing countries to access technology. So we have been working on a live case, actually. So there's an island in Côte d'Ivoire named Panda that is developing, and it's a new city being built. It will be 100% green. And the question related to AI that we chose to work on was the electric transportation that will be operated by entrepreneurs. They will all be the owner of their own company, but an AI will allocate the site and the workload to everybody. The problem we had is that doing this, the AI will be in charge of the repartition of the work. And then the AI will decide how much everybody will make. The problem is that we all don't have the same needs. We all don't have the same ambition in working. So how to make sure that everybody get what they want and deserve instead of what is fair, let's say, equal, let's say that. So we came up with a solution to give the human the ability to give up on something that the AI would be able to relocate to someone else. So the human factor will become very, very important in this case. And in the case that someone is giving up, the other question was to know if they were giving up in the advantage of someone, a precise person, or if the AI will be in charge of reallocating randomly the workforce charge. And we came up with a solution that it's better to leave it random, to make sure that we don't have another group of people controlling the work charge and things like this.
Well, thank you so much. I always like to hear such stories because these are from real life and it affects so many people. So thank you for sharing.
So we discussed how one kind of specific example, or looking at recruitment and the use of AI in recruitment, and how AI could pose both the challenge but potentially the solution as well. So with bias, when it comes to recruitment, if you're using AI to sift and look through CVs, resumes, etc., it's only going to be as intelligent as perhaps the data that's been fed into it to develop it. And if you have an industry that has been particularly heavy on characteristic, for example, quite a male-dominated industry, if they're looking at previous successful recruits and the workforce, that could then exacerbate that kind of discrimination or bias against the other characteristic. However, on the other, if you flip it, you could train that AI to really ignore all characteristics and only focus on objective skills, objective qualifications, etc. And you're also eliminating that human bias that subconsciously we may have as well. And with internal recruitment, for example, it's really difficult to completely anonymize job applications. Even if you take off any personal details, a human could still recognize an application based on the job history. They might, recognize the different roles that they've had, and then even subconsciously be swayed one way or another. Whereas with AI, they don't have that knowledge. They don't know anything except for what's on paper and what's been given to them. So that could be a good way of eliminating or reducing the bias within internal recruitment towards different candidates and so on.
I think it's very important, AI and recruitment, because it affects manpower, it affects economic growth. It's very important. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. So my name is Dan. I'm an AI consultant, but yeah, and I'm also particle physicist. So I just wanted to say about recruitment. So specifically for Switzerland, I think that AI will do good because currently the standard in CVs in Switzerland is that you need to put your photo, your date of birth, your address, and I don't know, I think that sometimes also gender. And this is like, I mean, why do you need all these issues and categories to discriminate me? So this is yeah, so AI will do good there. So it's not only the input for AI, it's also the input for people. So for us, I think that we also touched about HR a bit. So I will just go a bit about that. The solution for that was interoperability and transparency of the algorithm itself. In order to understand what were the factors for this selection. We mainly talked about the growth and the fact of so it's also about economic growth. So how do we define it? And this requires some AI, maybe to use AI to help to make a strategy that maybe also incorporates SDGs because they are complex into the corporate strategies. And also about the risks of losing jobs. Then we talked about the fact that first of all, well, this is maybe not an AI ethics problem, it's just a human ethics problem. Why do we define ourselves based on our jobs? And the second thing is that sometimes
Ladies and gentlemen, hope you had a good coffee break. Head on over now to the center stage in room A on the ground floor to see how technology like AI-powered exoskeletons can empower people with disabilities and change the future of mobility. See you soon.
So this is a good thing because so we talk about people. Let's say you have people with disabilities, and everything that they can do is the automated part of the jobs, the automated tasks, and now they will not have a place to be integrated in enterprises. So we need to think how we can still give them a place, how we can still give them place in society in a way. And maybe it's by shifting that productivity is not what defines us. That's
Thank you. You have raised very important points, especially when it comes to data confidentiality and data privacy. Unfortunately, we don't know in this era where our data goes and who can see it and who have access to it. So I think it's very important to have governance in place to really control this kind of data. Like I will share with you something. I receive almost every month a report from one of the major companies that gives me a map of every single place I have been to the last month or the last 3 months and so on, just because I'm enabling the location in my phone. So this kind of information, who sees it? Who has access to it? I mean, this kind of information is very confidential to people. So I believe that AI, now it can analyze this information and can use it in various ways, whether to the good, to the bad. That's why it's like it needs to be very monitored through policies and regulations. Thank you for sharing. So this, you're awesome. You're awesome. Yeah, you're done. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to share with you just one piece of information about Saudi Arabia. When it comes to digital economy, in the year 2007, the contribution of digital economy in the GDP of Saudi Arabia, it was about 13%. And as per Vision 2030 in Saudi Arabia, we are aiming to have the contribution of digital economy in the GDP reaching about 19% in the year 2030. There's a lot of investment in AI and digital transformation. We have a smart digital government. We have automated almost all services. We have a digital court. So we are very much adopting AI right now. Okay, so moving on. Okay, since we have 15 minutes, what we're going to do, we are going to talk about the 2 remaining SDGs, and then for the exercise, we will divide ourselves according to which SDG you're interested in. So when we talk about industry, innovation, and infrastructure, I think one of the most important challenges to address is the data privacy. For example, face recognition. While we are having in our smart cities and infrastructure a lot of security cameras, our face recognition, some people consider it like confidential, some people consider it normal. So it just depends. However, very important that this information is not being treated in an unbiased way. Also, autonomous vehicles. I'm not sure if you have heard about a couple of accidents that happened with autonomous vehicles. where it did not really recognize like walking objects and actually clashed into them. So this is very important to really keep in mind the safety of people. In one of the YouTube videos, I saw a robot attacking a worker in one of the factories and causing actual harm. So these kind of considerations very important when we think about having infrastructure and innovation in industry. I'm going to talk about the sustainable cities and communities. Of course, when we talk about smart city initiatives, it's very important to improve the urban infrastructure, for example, traffic, and how we can solve the congestion issues that we have in our roads and streets. Also to plan for the projects. Like, for example, if we are looking for the best location for agriculture for certain kind of products, or if we want to check the soil, the condition of the soil, and so on. If we are going to think about the environment and the pollution, it's not only important to think about air pollution, but it's also important to think about sound pollution when we talk about sustainable cities. We have a lot of noise, a lot of noise. If you are walking in the street, you can rarely pass by a street without having this noise pollution. One of the interesting projects that I heard about is having a scooter with a sensor that just walks around the city and measures this kind of data when it comes to the sound and pollution, and it can actually analyze this data and know which part of the cities is more noisy than other parts and how they can resolve it. So I think this kind of AI utilization is very important. Also, we're talking about hospitals. We are now having our city, I don't know if you have heard about it, Smart City Lyon, where we are going to have infrastructure that depends mainly on AI. And we are going to have also a very smart hospital that can actually predict the patients before they even visit the hospital for any needs. They can detect their condition based on their history, and it can predict if they are going to have, for example, heart attacks or so on. So this kind of smart city utilization for AI is very, very important. For the environment, as we have mentioned, we can analyze vast amount of information, environment data, including climate patterns, measurements, pollution, even natural crisis. As you know, like for example, um, some people find it's very difficult, for example, to measure volcanoes and earthquakes. However, we can know other kind of crisis, like for example, forest fires and so on. AI can actually help with that. And as I mentioned in the beginning, the COVID cases, AI can help very much with healthcare. Okay, so now we have in the remaining 15 minutes or less, we have two SDGs. You can choose whichever SDG you're interested in, whether it's sustainable cities and communities, or if it's the industry, innovation, and infrastructure. You can think about one major challenge in either of these SDGs, and in 10 minutes we will discuss. Thank you.
Only one.
Yeah. Yes, we can join them.
I'm with both, but I think have something to say. I'll be able to see as well.
The screen and two SDGs, SDG 9 and SDG 11. Thank you.
Which one? Smart cities. So
Yeah,
you too.
Emissions.
Smart cities or
Industry stuff. It's how initiatives.
So we can call on smart cities. As like a challenge in smart cities.
I left my style.
Use the consumption.
It's your mission.
Welcome to that. Let's get a little bit uncomfortable here, shall we? Yeah. Let's go. A little bit to sanitize, in my opinion. Yeah.
What's the mission for it?
So,
Weeks ago.
it's gotta get it.
No, but I actually, I had a discussion yesterday about him, so yeah, I didn't read the book, but I just, yeah.
With this result, and that basically.
But you should
I'm
just
also back
this
to
is easy to imagine. These of AI are much more.
It's ethics.
No
point. All of the things we're talking about AI for good and all the AI aspects. I mean, still not.
Open AI.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I didn't even stay with it. But some elements of the AI, but I know
You're dying
to ask to answer questions about I don't know.
Yeah, I went.
Everything that is ethics.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I mean, coming from
Yes.
all
The solution you're giving as
yeah.
the smart city, actually. So, yes. The challenge, you cannot see the challenge, the privacy. Imagine everybody knows the garbage I produce, where I buy my clothes, what time I live in my house, where my to school. Is my husband cheating on me or not? Somebody knows this before me.
That's why you can.
Yes. But the first thing, the data should be stored locally.
Oh, okay.
That's why also like sustainability. It's funny.
Trust police, yeah.
But it's like
So AI,
it's a nice it's a nice to have it on the PR. The report
Obviously.
that they publish, but it's not or in the sales or in the architecture or anything. It just comes. It's this chief ethics officer sitting there and like policing, and it's not even it's not part of it.
It's better than pushing the button and starting to recording, but erasing every 30 minutes. And then when the button is pushed, the last 30 minutes keep recorded. Yes, because when you push the button, it means that something already happened. So it's useless to record now. It's the 30 just minutes. Matters. Yes.
The idea we have already discussed it.
AI is being explored. So why not
I'm not saying
yeah, but so yeah, so
then
no, and even yeah.
Done in an hour and like just to confirm like big things. And then the 22nd was
And normally when you get to these kind of places, sustainable cities, no, the one we're working now, you are signing the paper to allow.
We know the general public is 20 years behind what they're actually doing.
The human finger to press the button is very important. That's what happened only on the course. We implement the mission.
Why did you with you?
When some
The right table here.
So can I hear?
Ready to.
Yeah, I will be very brief because we started delving into technology. I'm a robotics expert.
By the time you realize I talk about it.
Yeah, so very briefly, we look at ethics, or shouldn't we look at ethics at the global level, right? And the fairness and so on among nations and among groups of people and so on and so forth, right? With the extremely high cost of digital infrastructure of compute power that's needed for developing AI or tuning AI to local needs, that is an ethics issue, you know. We've discussed that, right? So that's a very important thing. The other one is the unfairness and the unbalance in ecological impact of AI on different regions in the world. So we're trying to elevate ethics to like a multinational level.
I think this is an excellent point because in many developing countries, they don't have actually the ability to build technological infrastructure and AI infrastructure. And I agree with you that there is some kind of unfairness with that. So thank you for raising it. Okay.
Yeah, we were first thinking like, is there any problem? If you look at mostly sustainable cities and yeah, especially with all the solutions you have to build 3D cities, smart cities, etc. You have so many options for route planning, to maintenance of objects, many options to check whether the new building is fit for purpose, and if you still are able to don't get floods, so that if it's raining, the water gets still to the sewer. And then we came actually to the idea that it is given to your privacy as a citizen. If there are a lot of cameras, etc., you might think that they use it for other purposes than only for things that are anonymized. So we came up with that there is a solution, namely privacy first. So from design onwards to design a solution that as closely at the source. There are techniques to blur images, for example, or have some other technologies such that only the data you need for the current solutions you can have.
Hi, I'm Cecilia. I'm a lawyer and do AI governance. As usual, we went through a lot of topics, not specifically these. We started talking about ethics in companies and the industry. That was triggered by talking about autonomous weapons. Why we are creating that type of weapons? That's for another debate. But we concluded that one of the issues is that the ethics compliance department is not really included in the discussions. We've seen the last saga of OpenAI. That's my private opinion. All the safety team is kind of non-existent. I think one of the solutions we came across is not only including the ethical side, the ethicist, but also the safety by design, and that would help align. Even though in the weapons and defense industry we are just past that, but in some other type of AI could have catastrophic consequences if we put a safety by design. Will be trying to avoid the worst. Thank you.
Safety by design, privacy by design, I think it's very, very important. So
much, everyone.
I think we have discussed several use cases related to smart cities. And I don't recall the first, I will give it back to you. It was a very interesting one that you made. The second use case we raised by my colleague, I will call you, I forgot your name, related to saving energy. And the third one was also on how to partially, even not fully, cover all the operations in hospitals and making sure that, of course, not just making sure the data privacy for the patients, plus the, let's say, the efficiency of the operations, because we don't want it to be fully, this is what I do believe so, that it shouldn't be fully automated sometimes, because some of the patients, they will be very sensitive, they will not be even accepted that. The fourth one, we have discussed the open democracy raised by also, do you remember me? You might have. It was very interesting for me. I haven't heard about it before. It was about how to make sure that everyone is voting on the, for example, that we want to live green or in a certain decision in the government, and you can delegate someone on behalf of you using their data and by their agreement. And this is what I understood. This is it in a nutshell. Thank you.
Excellent. So, very insightful from everyone. We would go on to the last.
If I may,
Yes.
if I may, we just split because we saw that last time it was too many people. You can hear me, I think, without it. Yeah. I don't know if it makes sense, but we talked about the environment impact of AI, with the fact that to train a model is the emission of a lifetime of several cars in terms of the CO2 emissions. And then if you want now to give equitable access to all the world to use it, which should have the access, then you need to make sure that you have the energy, the green energy and clean energy capacity to support it. And for this, you need to change your way of thinking about energy and how to do it less fossil fuel, but renewable energy doesn't have the capacity. So maybe I'm biased here, but nuclear power is something to consider, because at the end we are dying more from pollution, car accidents, smoking, alcohol abuse, drug abuse than nuclear accidents. So maybe we need to think about that, because AI is much more dangerous than nuclear. So yeah.
Yes.
This is the take-home message from particle physics. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think AI can also help with the whole supply chain in any operation. It can help to monitor the whole supply chain processes and to enhance the way it is processed. Now, this is the summary of all the discussions that we had. Conclusion: importance of data privacy in AI applications for achieving all the SDGs we have discussed, addressing bias in AI algorithms to promote equity and inclusivity in the context of SDGs, also ensuring AI technologies will do no harm. For example, my father is elderly. Can I trust a robot to really take care of my father at home when I'm not there? I think these are very, very important aspects to humans. And also, we need to adhere to ethical guidelines to support sustainable development, emphasizing the significance of accuracy in AI systems for advancing SDG-related initiatives and promoting responsible innovation. I'd like to thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the workshop. I enjoyed your presence today, and thank you so much. Have a great day.